My hometown golf course, TPC Scottsdale. I'm standing there with my playing partners 332 yards away on the 17th tee.
And we're just sitting there waiting for that group to finish ahead of us.
The hole was playing short. I think the only reason Andrew hit is because he'd made a double on a couple holes before and was just not very patient.
In my recollection, we could tell the guys were almost done. You see, Pate had just gotten his ball sort of out of the hole, and he was going to get out of the way, and Tom Byram had still a short putt to finish.
I'm like, I don't really hit it up on my green. I played here a lot. I'd maybe drive it up to the front. I was still mad about the 15th hole. I could have been 400, could have been 500. I'm just going to go ahead and hit it.
So carrying that bunker was the big issue. If we can carry that bunker, we can probably run it up there.
And a little puff of wind came up as I took it back, and I just killed this driver. I just killed it. It flew the middle bunker. It ricocheted really hard off the back of that bunker, and it bounced up onto the green.
Like we see this thing bounce off something, and then it disappears.
I was walking across the front of the green reading my putt, and the ball came zipping by me.
Did that do what we think it did? I mean, I think it went in the hole.
The ball went past me. It hit Tom Byram's putter. He was kneeling down reading the putt. The putter head was resting on the ground, and it deflected off of that and it went in.
I really couldn't see what was going on. There was a pretty nice-sized gallery, including my father up on the green.
People figured it out. People were standing up and cheering.
The tour official drives down the middle of the fairway. I thought maybe I got a penalty stroke, and he raises two arms up like touchdown in football. He said, "It's a one. It counts. There's a hole in one." And I got 100 yards from the green. The crowd is still cheering and clapping, and my dad is raising his arms, and the tour officials driving the cart kind of alongside with me. And they left my ball in the hole for me to pick it out, and I raised it to the crowd, my dad cheering, just going crazy as it counts for a one. Later to learn in the clubhouse after I finished my round, it's the only par-4 in the history of the PGA Tour, and it stands today.
Tom Byram, who had not had a stellar day putting up to that point, deadpan, that it's the first putt he made all day.
Well, what's insane is it's literally one of the craziest, most insane, unlikeliest moment in PGA Tour history, and there's no video. So it was the 20th anniversary, and we just had this it looks like Bigfoot footage, right? There's the one blurry shot that looks like it was caught off a security camera of it whizzing by Steve Pate's face, who, by the way, still is not thrilled that he got hit into, we learned. But so we needed to do something to relive this moment, and the one glaring thing was there's not video. So how do we get video?
And he made a beautiful putt of his own. Now we'll see the ball of Andrew Magee. Here it comes, here it comes. We won't quite catch Tom Byram, who's squatting down, has his putter on the ground. The ball hits the putter. Steve Pate watches. The ball goes in the hole. Byram is an outside agency. The ball goes in the hole. It's a hole in one.
We were all in shock. We were kind of waiting. I was waiting to see if it was legal. Did I do something wrong here?
One of the most outrageous hole in ones you've ever seen.
It had hit Tom Byram's putter, glanced perfectly in the hole. The stars were lined up perfect for me at the time. It was just kind of a magical thing.
Can we have the theme to the Twilight Zone, please?
So once we got everybody's perspective, and by the way, it was 20 years ago, right? So Magee had clearly told the story 575 times minimum. I mean, he had this thing down pat, right down to the inflection of his voice. But the other guys, they hadn't talked about it as much. And everybody's memory of it was a little bit different. Just if your group of friends told an old story from high school or something. Magee said it was into the wind, and he said basically there was almost no chance he was going to get home. So he felt like he could totally hit. Jerry Smith said he only hit because he's very impatient, and he had just made a double bogey on the previous hole. And then Steve Pate on the green said everybody was getting home on that hole. Of course he's going to hit into it. And he clearly kind of was still not that thrilled 20 years later that they hit into him. And I don't know if you could kind of hear it in his voice a little bit there.
That's so good.
But as far as the creative, yeah, so we got the script together. And then we've worked with this animation company before, a project called Tiger Tales, bringing alive a bunch of Tiger memories that we don't have on tape. So at first, I showed it to him, and the animator pitched me this thing that kind of looked It was like a YouTube video of a Stephen King interview, and it was cool. It was a similar look to what we ended up with. It was just like a little dark and like a touch on the creepy side. So we took like the initial Stephen King YouTube video, and we tweaked it to like add a little bit of color to it. And then, so yeah, this is the next like sketch that he showed us before he started actually sketching out the whole thing. And I think this one was super close. Obviously, it looks almost like the finished product, but like the guys were a little too fictionalized. Like Jerry Smith has this big noodle neck, and I just didn't want to do Jerry like that. You know, I don't even know the guy, so I wasn't ready to give him the noodle neck, and so we reined in a little bit, and then from there, I think we were pretty much there. We just needed to add some color and sort of bring it to life. The Stephen King stuff was like black and red, like you were in this nightmare, and so we switched up the color scheme, and we eventually got there. It took about a month to put the whole thing together, start to finish.
That's awesome, man. Very, very, very cool. And it wouldn't be the Bunker Show without us taking one of your stories and let's dive into the numbers behind it. You know, the rarity of this occurrence. And Kevin and Louis, you talk about, you know, they've been playing golf at TPC Scottsdale at this event since 1987. So we got 34 years of the world's best players playing this golf course, and that's over 14,000 tee shots. And we still just have Andrew Magee is the only person. So you think about somebody sat there and tried to hit 14,000 balls. You would think that maybe one of them would go in the hole.
And it deflected. It didn't even actually go in. Like, in theory, it could have rolled over the green, right? If there was enough velocity to pin and roll another 20 feet or whatever into the green, into the hole. Like, it literally didn't go in.
It's unbelievable. And, you know, and when we dive into it further, you know, we even went back and looked up, you know, in that 34-year history, you've got 893 of the world's best players have played at least one round at this event. And you think about all the rounds combined for all those guys and still just one. And you've got even 47 players who have tried at least 50 times each. And these are the best golfers in the world. So I don't know. To me, it's really interesting. And, you know, I think we'll be seeing one soon. You know, it's a rarity, but I think it'll be pretty cool.
And literally everyone can reach that green. Like, I remember even like 15 years ago, I was a huge Fred Funk fan growing up, and he was reaching that green, and he's like one of the shortest hitters in golf.
Right.
Like, if he's reaching that green, everyone's reaching that green. So in that way, it's kind of like a par 3.5, like we were talking about, and it's crazy.
And it's even beyond. It's not just 17. It's never happened. Like, and these guys are playing some of these things like a par 3, and it's still. Forget about 17. We're talking 50, feels like 100 events a year, and no one has done it even then. Think about DJ on the lip at Century a few years ago.
12, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one more little gust, and that thing's dropping, baby, and it still hasn't happened.
Dominic Bazzelli, Western New Yorker, like me and Johnny Bacon.
Bazzelli.
Bazzelli, an inch at Valero. 4 years ago.
You always need that extra inch, guys. So all these par fours, you know, they're unbelievable. You get TPC Boston, the fourth hole there, and it goes on and on.
Kevin, and someone in the chat asked, has this ever happened on the Korn Ferry Tour? Or has it happened on any other tours, or ever, as far as I know?
Has happened on the Korn Ferry Tour, and we have video of one on the Korn Ferry Tour, which is awesome. Rahil Gangvi at the 2011 Milan Classic. It's happened 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour, I believe. Chip Beck, Richard S. Johnson, I think, and then Rahil Gangvi 10 years ago, it was on camera. Announcers described bounced like 25 yards in front of the green and rolled in. Announcers described it as rolling in with like a putt. Actually, just threw that up on the Korn Ferry Tour TikTok yesterday.
Nice.
Inspired by this video and thought about it from 10 years ago, Gangvi. And so the fact that it hasn't happened on the big tour, as we say, besides Magee, just makes that even more wild.
Well, I know. And Louis, when we were looking back at historically at some of the stats, we went back and looked, and I think there was over 6.5 million tee shots on par 4s on the PGA Tour in the last, 30-some years?
Right, since 1987, yep.
Yeah, I mean, so since the start of this event, 6.5 million tee shots on par fours. That's all par fours, but it still just gives you perspective. You know, I mean, how many shots we're talking about here, and how, you know, something so famous is, you know, and Magee kind of has fun with it too here. You can see, he said, you know, if you Google me, it's the first thing that comes up. You know, it doesn't matter if I had 4 wins and made more than 600 tournaments. He said, you know, it's the first thing that comes up on Google. So of course we had to check it out. We had to go Google him, and he's exactly right. The first thing you get, you know, highlights, Magee revisiting. So really cool story, Sam. You know, the animation was very cool, and yeah, it's an amazing thing to have happened on the PGA Tour 20 years ago, and maybe we'll see one again soon.
How many drinks do you think he bought?
Please don't Google me.
Sam, how many drinks is that? You know, is that around just for the entire? Should he have bought a drink?
Did he say that? Yeah. Did you ask him about that at all?
I mean, he said he remembered having a good time in the clubhouse afterwards. We didn't get into the after party. I don't know. If that happens to me, we need every beverage cart out to the hole that we're on, and you leave the tab open and you just run it. I think
you run it.
And you just run it until you get, you know, it's got to happen. No. Yeah, exactly.
I think if I were to make an ace on a par 4, I'd probably jump right into that lake on 17 there and just go for a nice little swim.
Yeah, you have to, required.